Hello everyone, welcome to today's Alibaba Cloud Academy online public course. Today we are going to talk about another Alibaba Cloud security service. It's called AVDS, the Alibaba Cloud Vulnerability Discovery Service. This is a totally automated service which will be helping you to find your system vulnerabilities in a very quick way. So today's content will be including the following three parts, and also because this is a service introduction, we won't have a demo for this course. At the very beginning, let's talk about the vulnerability scan challenges and trends. From the chart in the left part, it just shows how the traditional vulnerability scanning was done. Usually, we just manually do the scanning through some software or by some human can, and after scan we generate a report, right? Sometimes also half machine, half human can, and we need some people, experts, to do the verification for the reports also. And we have to repeat the cycle again and again to involve all the resources and human resource to do the scanning work. So there are some kind of the disadvantage based on this kind of process. The first one is the high false positive. Sometimes it's not actually a problem, but it was reported as a problem because maybe the software itself, or because the human can was too cautious, and usually it takes a very long time, like several weeks. Usually we can think about like the quarterly, even yearly repeat cycle. And sometimes when the report was kind of very huge, it's really hard for the human can to quickly go through them and quickly identify the real root cause, which all lead to one big problem is the time window of every scanning was quite long, right? It leaves give the hacker much more chances to find the vulnerability and quickly leverage it and make the attacks successful. Now you have the new weapon for the enterprise vulnerability scanning, and we call it the AVDS. There are three highlight features you can think of. Definitely, because it's a total automated service, it can be done on a daily basis. It will be much faster than the traditional way to scan the vulnerability. And it's automatically deep analysis of the customer IT infrastructure, which means it will go from the one entrance and intelligently go through all the hierarchy of your IT infrastructure and found all the possible vulnerabilities. And definitely, because it also automatically responds the report and the analysis, it's much quicker than the traditional way to do the analysis. Now let's look into the AVDS a little more inside to see what kind of functions and highlights it can help the customer to solve. Again, the three we want to talk about more about the three highlights. The first one is the service. Now when we talk about the service itself, we are talking about a routine service we can happily every day or on weekly basis. And as we mentioned before, it can deeply involve into your IT assets and find the most of the something you may already forgotten, and some assets you may already leave them in the corner, but the AVDS can always find them. So one of the side benefits is that the AVDS sometimes can even find you some assets, IT assets you already forgot. And the effectiveness. So the effectiveness is talking about the automatically validate and analyze the vulnerabilities and assess the impact in practice. Those are all based on the our big data and the intelligence engine on the backend, and all the historical information we collected, all the attacks patterns we have, so that we can using those kind of data to do the automatically vulnerability analysis and validation. It's not like the traditional checkbox, right? It's not a yes or no answer. It gives you more detailed information about each vulnerabilities and how to avoid and how to fix those kind of more detailed information. The quick response, the response speed is definitely fast, and also it's not only the speed but also the test plan, the fixed plan is in a very detailed format, and we have the result also verified. You know, this is kind of like a complete circle. When we found the vulnerability and when we apply the patches, and we will also do the automatically verification to make sure the fix already works. So you will have the advantages after you deploy the APTs service. It's a high performance scanning service, and we have a massive backend nodes to do the scanning at the same time, right? It's even more than 2,000 scanning engines to work together to make the scan even faster. And it's very easy because you only need to provide one domain name, that's all. And the service can using the domain name and given privilege to go into the server itself and begin to detect all the possible and backend assets and try to find any vulnerabilities internally. And we have the different verification methods, right? We can do different simulate attacks to try to verify that the vulnerability is already fixed. And let's look into this picture to see why we need a really fast vulnerability scanning and detection system. Because it's just a race of the speed, right? For hackers, especially for those zero-day vulnerability exposure, the hacker, when they found that vulnerabilities, they can begin to prepare their attack plan. And they maybe just need 1 to 5 days to execute the attacking, which means if we cannot just to act the actions faster than hackers, maybe we lose the best time window. So the traditional on-premise data center, when we found those vulnerabilities, we assess and design the fixed plan. We do the testing and do the verification. Usually it spends more than 1 week or even 10 days to finish the cycle. But with the APTs, everything is happening automatically. It's all based on your scheduling, like the daily-based scanning, right? It can complete in hours and the fix vulnerabilities automatically. All the cycle will happen in just maybe 1 day. So again, speed is the key, right? If we can action fast, we will definitely win the game. There are two things we want to highlight. Is like the first one, we call them a comprehensive scanning. The traditional scan, they just maybe go into one entrance of your system and try to find the things around that entrance. But for APTs, it is exactly a full set of the service. It can find all the possible leaks and entries from your system and try to explore all of them. And this is totally a very comprehensive service. And another way is that previously, when some of the scanning software is trying to detect your vulnerabilities, most of the policy is based on the operating system, right? They will just give you some very shallow analysis, like based on the Windows system operating system you are using, you definitely should have those kind of vulnerabilities. There's no or very little verification for that. But for APTs, it's not like that. We just do the real scanning and testing, and also do the verification to make sure every vulnerability report is based on the real fact. Why we are trying to convince you to buy this kind of service? Because as Alibaba Cloud itself, we have been through so many years commercial operation to our customers, and we have so much experience on the cloud security, because on every daily basis we are going through like 200 million brute force attacks, even 20 million web hacking attacks. All those kind of attacks happening is not only give us more proof about how secure the product is, and the service can be more mature, and also all these attacks patterns and attacks methodologies will be also recorded by Alibaba Cloud and used into our big data engine, and help us to find more potential attacks in the future. Now let's look into some APTs best practice. Actually, some cases sharing. The first one, we may not disclose the name of that company, but it's the most famous real asset company. After we do the APTs deployment for them, and it really accelerates their scanning speed. Previously, they may take 2 weeks to do a full scanning for their IT infrastructure, but with our solution, now it was shrink to only 2 days. And you can see from the point 2, the APTs can not only scan the massive resources, but also it can identify the very particularly secure leak. Like for this case, we identify we identify one MySQL database. We found that the database was actually configured with some default password. This is really a huge security leak, and we noticed the customer immediately and handling the database immediately. And during the work with this company, and we have the Alibaba Cloud engineers also help the customers to fix our founded 46 vulnerabilities in 2 days in their network. So all these examples and data just showing that how the APTs can help you to accelerate your vulnerability scanning and fixing timeline. Again, we are actually using this kind of automatically detection service by ourselves for years. And when the WannaCry virus is coming out, and Alibaba Cloud is responding to that very quickly, and we immediately found the scanning the customers' services and servers and found the vulnerabilities, and we quickly noticed our customer in very short time. And again, for the JBoss vulnerability was happening in the year 2017 and November, and we using this kind of APTs service to find more than 300 web server, and was kind of like continuous with this vulnerability, and we can notice them. Actually, you can find that it's a huge amount of web services was actually affected by this vulnerability, but we just scan all this vulnerabilities out in just 5 minutes. It's really a significant, very fast speed. Okay, all in all, in today's online course, we introduced one of the very impressive and very high-speed vulnerability scanning service. We call them the APTs. And APTs service is already running in the Alibaba Cloud in the China mainland, and we are going to promote and trying to make its release very soon in our overseas market. So, but now you already have the chance to look into the more details about this product and the pricing list. So you can go to the link here to find more information about the APTs.